By the way, Cardinal Tobin is here. Can we have a round of applause? Thank you. Ronnie, why don't you tell your story? Come on up.
My name is Ronnie Long. To the governor, mom and dad, family, friends, I'm grateful to be here today. Today is a special day to me for one reason. Today is the first day that my mom and dad gets to see me out of prison after 36 years.
Amen.
I've been living a long, wrongful incarceration, and I'm thankful to Attorney General Gabriel Graywell that his team is going to be vetting my case to establish my innocence, and hopefully it's soon.
I want you to talk about prison.
I know.
Michael, here you are.
Over the years, the last few years in prison, I have been running a mentor group, and we basically teach younger men how to be men. And a lot of younger guys look up to me as an old timer, big bruh. They know I'm no nonsense, and I'm a Marine too. I start off the groups with, "Mountain, get out of my way! Mountain, get out of my way! Mountain, get out of my way!" I got that from the Marines, and the Marines got it from the Bible. Hoorah! Hoorah! Semper Fi.
So the purpose of what we want to talk about, and Ronnie's got a really tough story, but I want to talk about the challenges of being in prison. And for us, and for our guys, and we're blessed to have Michael here, is to understand, yeah, we got to give it up for this guy. I'm going to talk about Michael, but I want Dom to talk about what being in prison for that long of a time does to a person. Dom?
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for having me. So my name is Dominic Dupont, and I served 21 years in maximum security prisons all across New York State. That process started for me at the tender age of being a teenager. I had just turned 19, so I spent some of my teens in prison, all of my 20s, all of my 30s, and then started working on my 40s prior to being given executive clemency by Governor Cuomo in New York State. I also was the subject of a documentary that aired on HBO called Raised in the System. And I want to speak to the stigmas that come with incarceration. I want to speak to some of the trauma and some of the things that happens on the inside to people, and how do we help people heal?
Dom, hold the mic closer. Thanks.
Thanks. And how do we help people heal? So for me, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. I have recently been released, and I just want to speak to some of what goes on in prison. It's a lot of trauma. It's a lot of abandonment. I lost my mother in prison. I lost my grandmother in prison. I had been outside of a prison wall only twice in that amount of time, and that was to go to a funeral visit in handcuffs and in shackles, more restraints on me than you see most animals have on, and that did a lot to me. But what I also want to speak to is that I didn't have to be identified by that one worst moment in my life, and I used prison as a catalyst to speak to the work that we need to do in our communities. And that meant partnering with amazing people like the governor, partnering with some of our state partners and city folks and our local assemblymen and councilmen to make sure that we are able to change the narrative. And for me, that's what a huge part of this conversation is about, making sure that in the land of the free, that we work hard to give people second chances. But what I also learned while I was in prison is that a lot of the people that are coming from my community are just fighting for a first chance.
Amen.
They come from marginalized communities where they lack education, they lack health care, they lacked this idea of where their next meal would be at. And I'm still trying to understand, why is poverty not a crime in the United States of America? So I want to thank you for this platform, Governor. I want to thank you, Michael. You're amazing, brother. The privilege to not only have you as my uncle, but to be able to work with you as you continue to embark on our goals to address a lot of these social injustices that are happening in my community and in our community as a whole. Have been an honor and a privilege for me to be at the table with you as we begin to have these conversations.
Thanks,
Thank
Dom.
you.
God bless you. Murray, can you talk a little bit about your experiences in prison and what reentry has meant for you?
Good afternoon. My name is Murray Whitfield.
You got to hold the microphone closer, Murray.
Good afternoon. My name is Murray Whitfield. 1984, August 15th, began my process or my introduction into New Jersey's prison system. I was 19 years old when I entered prison, and I was 52 when I left. See, the reality of it is that when you're traveling through those different situations, you have to figure out how to survive them. I mean, you're there now. I mean, you know, whatever you may think or feel about the choices I made that got me there, I'm there. So what did I do to survive? I watched more men in New Jersey State Prison die in prison than I ever seen parole. Long was the wizard. He was the legal wizard everybody used to run to try to get him to do their appeal. You know, again, when you get there, you have to decide what you're going to do. Unfortunately, I gravitated to the worst part of the system. But in gravitating towards that worst part, I liberated the best part of who I became. Amen. I had to travel through those different things. I spent most of my time in what some may consider solitary confinement in MCU. I spent the other 12 years, another 12 years outside of the state. You see, the reality of it is that it's one question, it's one thing that everybody in prison got in common. There's only one thing that we all have in common. We all have it in common. Everybody want to be paroled. Everybody want to be paroled. So if we here already, then why do we have to go there in order to decide that we need to move from this point on to something new and different? And I get the choices that we have to make in our community. Yes, the natural reaction to oppression is resistance. So people rebel in different ways. And as a result of them rebelling in different ways, wait a minute. Did you know that there were four worst schools in the state of New Jersey that they called the ABIC districts? It was 4 of them. And the reason that it was 4 of them because the government was taking certain amounts of money from there in order to fill other parts of their budget. And it was in our communities, the black communities. So if you want to know the solution to the problem is to organize.
But let's talk about Ronnie.
Now, if we deal with the New Jersey reentry program, right? I got you.
It's a reentry conference, but not that I disagree with anything you're saying.
We're going to do, see, the thing is this, is that, listen, when I did come out of prison, I went to the welfare building for assistance. And they sent me to Big Brian. He's somewhere out here. You know? Brian sent me to Kathy. See, because inside of this program became direction. It gave you a way to connect, because when we come home, we don't know nobody, man. Listen, man, I just did 30-some years. Everybody I know dead. Or, you know, most of them is in there. I can't. They want to talk about the program, so I'm with the program. You know, but the reality of it is that you need that stepping stone to help you get to the next step. So the new entry program did that for me. As a result of that, I was able to get into this OSHA program. And we graduate on the 25th.
Amen.
You know? But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that my greatest support has always been my wife.
Amen. Where is she?
You know, I did 32 and a half years and she's still with me.
God bless her. Steph.
So what I want to do is say thanks to Brian, Kathy, to the governor there, to the brothers up here. See, my thing I've always learned and I'm going is that if they don't break your spirit, they don't win. So if you got family in the prison system, support them.
Amen.
Thank you.
Well, so Governor, again, I just want to thank you for allowing me to be here. You know, a lot of people look at me as Pastor Steffi, but they really don't know my real story. I, too, was in the prison system. I was in prison in Bordentown when they named it Gladiator School back in the 80s. My number is 99741. And a lot of these guys, I'm like a baby to them. They would
But you're
smack
pretty
me
bougie
and tell
now.
me. But now, you know, AKA Boogie Night, you know, and so I ran all the streets in Newark. But God gave me another chance. And, you know, as you see, I'm with Reverend Al Sharpton, with the governor and so many other people throughout the country. I go all over the country. We have, in the city of Newark, 30,000 square feet technology center, where we have partnered with Panasonic, AT&T. We just made a partnership with the NBA. And I'm saying to you all can make it. When you come into the facility, the first picture you will see will be a friend of all of ours, and that is Pastor Ron Christian from the Christian Love Baptist Church. I just want to say this to those family members. Don't give up on your son. Don't give up on your daughter. All they need is your support, and get connected to the prison reentry, and their life can be bigger and better than those of us that are up here right now. To be in the presence of Omar, the wire, the one and only, that is an honor for him to be here today, and that says what he really thinks about those of us that have been in the system, that you can make it. And I just wanted to share that with you all. Thank you.
Ronnie, thanks, Steph. And I want to thank Dominic. I want to thank Ronnie Long is an exceptional human being. And my dear friend David Rothenberg is here from the Fortune Society. He used to listen to David on WBAI. Give it up for WBAI.
David
But
Rothenberg.
Ronnie,
I was the first inside producer for one of the WBAI programs.
Ronnie, how did you not get angry or bitter being there that many years?
I used to be mad. I used to be angry. But I got to Trent State Prison October 24th, 1985, and I was angry. 2 weeks later, Reuben Hurricane Carter left. And he said that bitterness consumes the veins that contain it. And I couldn't understand that. It took a lot. I just couldn't understand it. I didn't want to be in that place. I wanted to enjoy being angry. But then in 1997, I got saved. I went back to church. And I had to learn forgiveness. And I had to also let the anger go. So I haven't been just living in prison. I've been living. And as he said, I did a lot of law work. I got a lot of people out of prison who were serving life sentences. And I could get everybody else out except me. But David Rothenberg was a staple of them, at least the last 25 years. David Rothenberg and the family at WBAI was a staple. He sent me to Jim McGreevy, or he sent Jim McGreevy to me. I went to the reentry program. I did the week there, and I was amazed. It's like people there that really care. They really want to see people coming home survive, getting jobs, your ID, Social Security. I got an email address, Ronald Long 2019 at Gmail.
Amen. Amen.
Dawn, Jenny, Pena. It's an amazing group of people at Reentry because they really care. And I gave up the anger a long time ago because I always knew that society was better than I thought that it was. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
And just before, and I know you got fancy interview with Robin Glover, but also, can we have a shout out for the State Parole Board?
Absolutely.
Hey, go ahead.
I recognize Charlie Jones, and I asked the chairman, I said, how you pronounce your name? He said, Samuel J. Plummerai. When he looked at me, I didn't know if that was the look of death or the look of something good was going to happen, but he was smiling the whole time. But I thank you for taking that chance on me, and you'll see what I've been saying all along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, just like, when you look at Dominic, how many years?
20 years, 7 months, and 18 days.
20 years? How many years, Murph?
33.
I can't, 50, 53? 56?
36 years.
Shit, the 6 and 6 is 12. How many years? 92, all of them? 92 years. So, you know, Michael is somebody really special because not only has he reached out to his nephew Dom, but he supported our reentry efforts time and time again. Not only is he a great actor, and all of you from my generation, I was talking to Jacqueline, I said, like, he's Omar. She goes, who? I said, Omar. She's like, you know, but I just want to give it up for my dear friend Michael.
Brick City. Brick City, what it do? First of all, I can't say how grateful I am to be here amongst these fine men. And Governor, when you add up their time that they did in the jailhouse, you got to tack on about at least another 25, 30 years. 'Cause for the jail that I spent, I lived my life in. See, I'm the recovering addict on the up here, right? That's who I really am. Let me tell you who I really am, right? You know, because it's all nice for the accolades of what I do in my work, but that doesn't define, that didn't earn me my seat here today. Let me say it that way, right? When I was on the wire, I was living on the streets of Newark, New Jersey, struggling in my addiction, right? That's who I really was, right? It wasn't until God blessed me to come through the doors of Christian Love Baptist Church, right here in the streets of New Jersey, right, in Irvington, Essex County, excuse me, right here in Essex, right here in Irvington, right? And I got blessed to meet my brother, the Reverend Dr. Ronald B. Christian. See, I became a man on these streets, right? And that's how, and he called me one day, he says, Mike, meet me in church, meet me at church, right? He said, when Rev call, you come. I didn't know that I was going to be walking into a graduation for a rehab facility right here in Newark, and that's when Governor McGreevey and I first met, and we were on a panel together. We spoke together about reentry and recovery. But in regards to the panel that I listened to earlier, in regards to reentry and recovery and support for the addict, I have a few questions. As the recovering addict who has struggled in my addiction for about 25, 30 years, I asked, what took so long for this conversation to happen? And then the next question I have to ask is, what happened, what changed for it to happen, right? Thirdly is this medication that we speak of that the addict needs to have access to, how does that help the addict that's suffering from crack cocaine? Because I stopped past to tell you that the addict that suffers from crack cocaine is still roaming these streets of Newark, New Jersey, right? I stopped past to tell you that. I know that for a fact because I got high on these streets, right? So when we talk about, you know, it's not brain surgery from where I come from on the side of the table where I sit. When I came out of my first rehab, the only support that I was told to go to, I was 22, 23 years old. Oh, go make AA meetings because, see, they kicked me out, right? They kicked me out. They wanted me to commit to admit to something, an act that I did not do, and only me wanting God knows I didn't do it. So they tried to badger me to make me, to break my spirit, to make me admit to something I didn't do. And I wouldn't do it. So they kicked me out to the street. I didn't get to have my reentry process because the program was designed. And let me tell you how I got to that program, because there was nothing like this in the community. Thank God my mother knew somebody that could pull some strings downtown. That's how I got into Daytop Village, right? They kicked me out. They kicked me out. When I came to the streets, all I had was the rooms of AA, right? And, you know, for a young man that was my age with the issues that I was struggling with, I did not. It was, you know, to keep coming, you know, it was good, the meetings, but I needed that wraparound support that you talk about. I needed that 30 years ago. So why is that still an issue? You know, so when you say that you know, that the wraparound is not brain surgery, my kids are still suffering from other things. The things that I suffer from, they're still out there. The addict is still out there. And there's no support for that addict that suffers from the crack cocaine, the stigma that's still on them. Right? All of a sudden now, it's the addict, the struggling addict. We got called crackheads. Right? Where's the release of that stigma? Right? So now all of a sudden, you know, I'm grateful that this conversation has happened. Make no mistake. Right? But we need to really be cognitive and conscious of the conversation and how the narrative is being shaped when we have these conversations. We talk about inclusivity. You feel me? All right, thank you. I'm just grateful to be around these brothers. And, you know, I learned from y'all. You know, your time that you spent incarcerated, I look at that now as your education, right? So my nephew and I, we formed this foundation called Making Kids Win, right? And you already know, I don't have to beat you over the head. It's not rocket science. We ask for programming in our community like it's something special. It's just insulation. It's what the other neighborhoods have, right? How would your other kids act if they didn't have nothing, no outlets to plug in all that energy? They'd be bouncing up the walls just like my kids are, right? So we don't stop asking about programming like it's something special. Our kids need the same facilities and the same resources that the other communities need to thrive, right? So, and I'm gonna tell you something that the other side of the spectrum is, our men and women that are coming home from incarceration, there's a lot more like these men that have survived their education, their time in incarceration, and want to do good in the community. They need to be uplifted more. They need to be, their support they want to put back to the community needs to be translated into jobs. Jobs, people, right? Change agents need to be paid for their education and the time they serve in the incarceration system. Coming out as men, healthy, cognitive, wanting to do for their community, they need to be compensated for that, right? So we need to create jobs for our men and women that come home from jail that want to do in the community, because we all know what waits for them in society. Nathan, nothing, right? When you get the axe on your back. So Making Kids Win. We plan to take all the formerly incarcerated men and women that want to use their past and make it good, turn it into education and make it profitable for the next generation. We plan to employ them. Employ them. If you think about that, we talk about programming and resources. We got a lot of men and women that have the experience already. We done been to school. I can tell you how to stay sober a day at a time. I done been through school. These men can tell you how to survive through 20, 30 years of mass incarceration and come out on the other side and use that pain for good. We got all the knowledge you need right here. Right here. I'm done. Pardon me, but I love y'all.
And Governor, Governor, can I just say this? Governor, I just want to say this. That's why we have in the city of Newark the Tech Center, where you can come there and get free IT training, where you can become an IT specialist. And after you go through the 4 to 8 week course, you can come out starting making $60,000. You don't need no high school diploma. You don't need no GED. All you need is a willingness to want to get out of where you are, and we have that available.
But I just want to say, what Michael said resonates really deeply in communities of color, that when there was a crack cocaine epidemic, it was a criminal justice problem. And then when there became oxycodone and Percocet in the majority community, it became a health crisis. And so that does need to be recognized. But I also want to say, and you're going to hear during the course of the day from some of our clients and whether it's Murray or Ronald, that people are going to school, people are working. We have a 54% employment rate, and we're working cooperatively in the last panel that my dear friend Joe Hayden's talking about with the Department of Labor and U Bailey. We've got apprenticeship programs, and we're putting people into organized labor. And so what we need to understand is, and we get people sober, get them housing, mental health, treatment, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a job, if you don't have employment, it's all going to happen again. And that's a shared responsibility. And yesterday, I was with some of the members of the business community, and I'm saying that it just can't be New Jersey businesses, it has to be national businesses. And so again, I just want to say thank you to Dominic, to Murray, to my dear friend Pastor Bartley, to Ronald, and to Michael for that impassioned plea, but it's all of our business. Can we give him a round of applause? Thank you.